What's the biggest trap you see modern dads, modern fathers falling into right now?
The belief that they're a good dad.
Unpack it. That's
Yes.
provocative. Unpack it.
So there's this thing of, oh, you're a good dad or you're a bad dad. And there are these two categories. And so if you think of yourself as an athlete, right? Like, oh, I'm a good football player. Well, right when you say you're good, you're going to start drifting and you're not going to be putting in the work. You're not going to be striving. You're not going to be like having the grit and the desire to continue to improve. And so if we consider ourselves like, oh, I'm a good dad, well, perhaps something that you were performing at a certain level with your daughter who's older and things worked out, and now you have a son who's 12, 13, and it's not working with him. All right, you got to evolve. We've got to grow. We've got to do something different. I just believe that it's such an important skill set to guide and lead our young heroes that it requires us to take a deeper look at how can we continuously improve, just like if you were competing in jiu-jitsu or business or anything else. It's not a static game. It's got to be something that is continuous.
This comes from a personal place for you, your journey with fatherhood. You had a son who at the time was in eighth grade, hit a wall with him essentially in your relationship with him. He walks out, he leaves for 6 months. Every dad's going to bring their own unique experience, their own style to like how they parent. I know you know that as you've worked with more and more dads, like every person's
Yes.
unique on a lot of stuff. How would you describe your parenting style for your son before this? In the lead up to him walking out and bouncing for 6 months, what was your
Yes.
your style in your home?
Great question. And I'll kind of go a shameless plug here. We have a leadership quiz at dadswholead.com, and that'll help you break down like what's your natural leadership style.
Nice.
And my leadership style was the Admiral. Not great with communication, great with taking action, great with leading myself, great with knowing the things and the tasks to be successful. But my ability to connect, and you can kind of see certain personality types, especially if they're very analytical, they tend to have more of this like, oh, if we do A, we're going to get B, right? And it's an effective way to lead ourselves as men, but as we start to lead others, it needs some more diversity. And so for me as a dad, before Charles was in eighth grade, and at the beginning of his eighth grade year, I was still involved. I was coaching his football team. I was helping him get work. I was, staying up on his grades and all that. But he really felt like I was putting him into a box. With our teenagers, it's very different because we're not leading somebody on the same ship that we're on. Like when I was coaching for the Ducks as a strength intern, everybody's getting the players ready for Saturday to perform at the highest level. Everybody's moving in the same direction. With teenagers, it's different because they're on their own ship. They're going on their own direction now. They're becoming their own person. So it's how can we guide them to make the best decisions while still giving them freedom to be able to learn how to steer their own ship. Because if they are feeling like we're steering the ship for them, that's when we can run into issues. Charles felt like I was a source of restriction rather than a source of freedom and growth. And so, because teenagers desire freedom at such a high rate, if as a dad you're seen or perceived as a source of restriction, even if it's coming from a good space of wanting your kids to succeed, if you're seen like I was from being a source of restriction, it can start to put into play that rebellion cycle.
You're on a podcast right now called Undercurrents. So I'm always looking at the thing behind the thing. And the obvious
Yes.
question to me in this situation is, how are you parented? What led you, Thomas, to parent in that way?
My dad was retired military, Air
There you
Force
go.
major,
There you
21
go.
years. Yeah. And so it was like, hey, we're going, get in the car. These are the things we're doing for the day. There was not a lot of like, hey, what do you think? Like how, what's happening for you? Like, how are you wanting to go? Where are you wanting to go? Actually, it was my brother who was like, what do you want to do for college? Like my junior, senior year, what are you going to do? My brother's about 10 years older than me. And so, um, my parents were either like, and they care, they provided, they were there, came to my games, they did all those things, right? Um, but they were very much like, this is the direction we're going. It's very stressful for my dad to go off of the plan. So they're like, hey, dad, can I make dinner for the family? You know what? I'm just gonna do it,
Sure.
and don't worry about it. And which, in some ways, is great. Like, oh, cool, I don't have to. But at the other way, it's like, what, does my dad not trust me to make dinner? Is like, am I gonna be that much of a hassle, to help grow and develop? So it was kind of a, it was nice to be, it was nice at times to have that mentality. And then at other times it was like actually pretty hurtful that it felt like, man, let me just show you that I have what it takes.
I don't know that you rebelled against the way
Yeah.
that your parents parented, but what was your reaction to him? What did it do to your internal like identity and the way you thought about it?
The biggest thing as I now lead other fathers and I learn from what my dad did, and my dad put out a lot of effort too.
Okay.
Like he sold his Harley, he bought a sailboat so that we could do like a family activities together, um, and have that time and opportunity. But then there would also be times where and we were going undercurrents back, right? Like my brother before I was born drowned
Oh, wow.
when he was 18. And so there was some fear there about like protecting me in certain ways. I didn't learn to swim until I was like 10, didn't learn to ride a bike until I was 12. And so there was this like, man, like just a desire, I guess is like the undercurrent in my heart was that I had a desire to prove to everybody that I could do it on my own.
Interesting. Okay. What do you, I mean, the way that I think about it is like a lot of times I'll just say personally, I don't
Yes.
remember a lot of the things my parents sat me down and tried to teach me. Like, we're going to learn about X. I
Yeah.
remember a lot more what they modeled. Think
Yeah.
the things that they did that they weren't talking to us directly about it, but it's like, oh, this is how my parents handle stress. This is how my parents do relationships. This is how my parents do or don't talk about emotions. This is and so you just sort of pick up on some of that stuff
Yes.
as a kid, and the older you get, the more you realize that. uh, so I guess my thought there is like you can now look with some hindsight and you're working with dads and sons on some of this stuff. If dads are listening to this going, I want to be a better dad, I've never even really thought about this is the baggage that I'm carrying into my fatherhood experience. Like how does one start to do some of that? Both look backwards and like this is kind of what I'm doing and think about, all right, this like how does this affect how I lead in my home.
Yes. I what you mentioned there is really important is I first is we have to identify what we want to accomplish with their family. And I have a presentation that I do that has a whole bunch of random people you probably would never recognize, random dudes. And in the presentation, all these faces pop up. And so I asked the audience, like, who are these people? Like, no idea. Show them their names, still no idea. Like, okay, these are all this dude's coach. And the screen pops up and it's Tom Brady. He had like a throwing coach, a body coach, a nutrition. He had like all of these coaches to help him with different things. Even though he's accomplished so much, he's still trying to get better and improve, right? And so he's a champion because he has the desire. Like the target is winning the championship, or it's very clear and defined. And so his ego is able to break and say, like, I don't care about my ego anymore because I know the target. I'm going to get help and I'm going to pay somebody and I'm going to improve. And so as dads, a lot of times there's this ego that we carry of like, oh, my dad didn't get any support. He figured it out. I turned out okay. I could do this. So this ego starts to crack in of like, man, why should I need coaching for being a father? I have this down. Like I have a pretty good relationship, even if I struggle. So there's this break of like, is it more important that we do it by ourselves, or is it more important that we perform at a higher level? So that ego has to break. We have to get to the spot as a dad, like, I need to perform as a leader at a higher level than what I am right now. And if I were to do that, it would elevate the performance of my wife, the performance of myself, the performance of my kids, and the performance of how we operate as a team to an entirely new level. And so if you have that hindsight first of like, where is it that you're moving toward? That's a very important anchor. I've got to lead from the front. But that requires understanding myself at a deeper level. And ultimately, the goal with all of this is not to be the dad that is like able to do everything and put your kids in the perfect position, but it's the dad who can lead their kids in a way that all of a sudden like they're taking action for themselves. They're the captain of their own ship as well. But it requires being someone who is the captain of their own ship first, because that's like we are the ultimate model of what a man looks like for our kids.
So if we're going vision first, everybody's vision for their family, every dad is going to have a slightly different vision, but some things
Yes.
are going to be required to make a great leader. There's going to be common attributes across leadership. Like this is,
Yes.
give me some of that. What when you think of dads and the type of leadership that they need to have in order to be
Yes.
moving in the direction of great dad, not achieving it, not patting ourselves on the back like, oh, I'm a good dad, moving in the direction of we're leading our families well, our kids well. What are the attributes of that person?
If you're watching the video, a Forge leadership pyramid, which are 5 attributes of leadership that I talk about deeper in my book, Dads Who Lead. But those are the base of the pyramid is faith, ownership, respect, groundbreaking adventure, and expectation. And they're sequential in that order. And the first 2 are faith and ownership. And that has everything to do with ourselves before we even talk about connection with a kid or communication or going on an adventure, having expectation. Like the base, which if you know about building any building or any program, like it is most important to spend a lot of the time there. So faith is like not just faith in God, but faith in that you're a dad on purpose. You're your kid. God chose you to be your son, your daughter's earthly father, handpicked to go through that role. So when you have these moments where it's like, man, I don't know what to do, I'm not sure where to go next. I'm like, okay, this is all part of the plan. This is part of my kid's development, but it's also part of my development as a leader, and part of that process. And then faith in ourselves, faith in our kids and our wives' ability to perform. So faith is really the first thing that I work on with folks.
What were the other go up the pyramid for me? So we work on
Yes.
faith and ownership. We'll hit on each of these kind of briefly, but I'd love for you to just work your
Yeah.
way up so I can hear that.
So ownership comes after faith. And I used to have ownership at the base. But the truth is, what I found is that when folks take ownership without having faith in themselves, it can be self deprecating. Like, oh man, it's my fault. My wife left me. It's my fault. My kids are rebelling. Like, I've messed up. I'm a mess up. They have this ownership of confession, but it's not backed up with like, okay, this didn't serve me and I have what it takes to take the next step forward. So the ownership piece is just saying like, if something doesn't go wrong, you're not pointing your finger at somebody else. You're looking at what can I do differently? Okay, my son isn't like, let's say my son's not performing in school. Okay, what can I control as his leader to put him in the best position? And then focusing on what I can do, and then also allowing the rest to let go and let him have a piece as well, and not trying to control. That third level is respect, and that is there's 2 levels of respect. There's an action respect, which is if you're watching Michael Jordan play basketball, you may not know him at all, but you respect him because you know the work ethic, you know you know his story, you know his abilities, and you respect him as a person, as a man. And that's often the masculine form of respect. Respect people who perform. But there's also the connection respect. And I break this more down in part 3 of the book. But like our kids also need a connection respect. So I've had people that I've had great action respect with, and I start to get to know them, and I respect what they've accomplished. And then as they start to interact with me more, I realize they're actually like an asshole. And so then it's like, even though I respect you at this level, because you're an asshole now, like I don't have that same respect for you anymore because I know the type of person that you are, how you treat me.
Yep.
And so with
You
our
want to be the type
teenagers,
of person that the closer someone gets to you, the more the respect goes up, right? Like
yes,
I used to say this phrase, I haven't said this in a while, but I used to
let's
say
go.
not so shiny, but oh so bright, meaning a lot of
Mm,
people pursue shininess in their relationships. And so it's like very much external validation. What can I do that would be applauded? What could I do that would make people think I'm impressive? And then to apply this to fatherhood, it's very much like how could I prove to people that I'm a good dad? And you're probably trying to prove something to yourself by doing that. But as you do that,
yeah,
you make a lot of external choices that actually probably aren't the best for connection respect, which I love that that's the way that you worded it, because it's like, yeah, the more I get into relationship with my kid, the closer they get to me, they get a front row seat to my decision making, to my emotional intelligence, to my pursuit of wisdom, to how I treat, women, my wife, my like,
yes,
and that either is going to increase their respect for you or decrease it. And they probably won't even have the language for it. They're not thinking about, do I respect this person more or less? They just make decisions based on what they intuitively see and know.
yes, absolutely. And the respect is huge. It's just this reaction that we have. Like you said, if you get a call from your mom or your wife or your dad, like regardless of who it is that pops up on the phone, you're going to have a certain emotion that's associated with that. And so if the emotion that we have, that our kids have when they see our name on the phone, if it's like, oh no, it's dad, he's going to want to know what I'm doing with my grades. He's going to want to know, why haven't I taken out the trash? He's going to, there's a brand that we write. And so it's not that you can't have expectations, but we have to be mindful of what is the brand that we're creating, and are we blending in? Are we just feeding them vegetables all the time, or are we giving them some other nutrient dense relationship opportunities, so that we're not only the person who is dishing out the rules and expectations of the home because we pay the bills.
Yep. Yep. That's good. Okay. I have some follow up questions that we'll get to, but I want you to be able to go all the way
Yes,
up the pyramid. So let's go all the way up. Take us to the next couple, and then
take it to
we
the
can go
couple.
back to other questions.
Amazing. Cool. So, respect. This is really the base before we get to groundbreaking adventure. And this is, can you have a 5-minute conversation with your son or your daughter and it goes mutual well? It's not these awkward pauses. Like they're asking you stuff, they're telling you stuff, they're engaged, and they're actually like pursuing you as a leader. It's not this awkwardness. And that opens the door to groundbreaking adventure. So that's going on a fishing trip, going rock climbing, doing martial arts, doing a camping trip, something where you have longer chunks of time to be with, impact, and influence your kids. And this is really where I have a friend whose daughter is 6, I believe 6 or 7. And they go rock climbing with her. Like she does like multi-pitch rock climbing because that's a skill that they've developed within her. And so as they grow and she becomes a teenager, they're going to have this shared activity and ability to go out and rock climb together and enjoy an activity that has nothing to do with school, that has nothing to do with the chores of the home. And most people in America don't have that. Everything's just based on like the structure of getting through the day to day. Yes. Do you need a band-aid on your finger? Okay. We're gonna do a quick med break here. Let me
Let's do
see.
it. We need a Band-Aid sponsor.
So the groundbreaking adventure gives us, like, if you're listening to this, and so I'm 37, so I remember when T-Mobile first got going, they had the Fab Five, and the Fab Five was like your five best friends that you talk to the most. You could talk to them for free, right? And the goal for us as dads is not to like overbear and control everything in our teenager's life. But what I want to do for the dads that are our clients is like, how do we keep you in the Fab Five? Like, how do we keep you in those top fives? After adventure is expectation. And so now we're at the level, like, it's always important to have expectation. But if you've done all these levels up to here, if you're like, hey, dishes need to get cleaned, take care of your schoolwork, this is the standard, it makes that so much easier. And there are certain standards that I talk about with that. When I was actually, it was before I was even interning with Oregon. I was just at a coaches conference, and Chip Kelly was the head coach of Oregon. And at the time, Chip Kelly was like the new hot coach. Like, he was the Sean McVay of like the era, like bringing in brand new stuff of like the hurry up offense and
Yep.
different things that hadn't been seen before. And he had this phrase that he said at this conference, and I'll never forget it. And it was, with your players, if you accept it, expect it. If you accept it, expect it. Like, if you accept them leaving their dishes on the table and you don't say anything to them, then like expect that that's what they're going to do. And so the line of how you draw that of like, hey, this needs to get changed, this needs to, the consequence or the intervention that can change, but is that behavior acceptable? And if it's acceptable, then that's what you've got to expect is going to happen. So it also comes back to ownership of like, okay, I've been accepting this behavior. I've been accepting that my living room right now is like getting out of control with the toys and the Legos. So I've got to like reassess myself and be like, okay, we've got to clean this up today. That's just an example. Like the standard that we allow is the standard that we're going to get.
I will say this. If you're watching this right now, you're probably taking some level of ownership and you have a belief at, even if it needs to continue to grow, which we all need to continue to believe in ourselves at a deeper level and that we're dads on purpose. I get that. But I think if you're here and you're watching something like this, you're in a place where you want to continue to learn and grow. So I'm not going to address that as much. I have two bigger questions that really fall into that connection, respect sort of place. And so
Yes.
I want to talk first about increasing our emotional intelligence. And part of why I want to talk about this is because as I think about being a dad, and we were talking about undercurrents earlier and what, what we experienced, one of the things for fathers is like, you might not realize your lack of emotional intelligence until you're holding your 4-year-old or like and you'll be hit by waves of it, right? Because you're constantly peeling back layers going like, oh, I need to become better in this area and this area. And fatherhood is like going to the gym and realizing things about yourself that you need to continue to take ownership of and you need to continue to work on. And so I'm just curious, like, from an emotional intelligence perspective, like when you hear people talk about dads and what they need to bring to their home, that's not one of the things that I hear very often, but it is one of the things that I feel like would most impact your ability to have connection respect from your kids is like, do I have emotional intelligence about what I'm feeling and how I'm reacting? And do I have it enough to where I can actually sense what's happening in my kid and respond appropriately so that I can actually have connection happen here? And so, how do you think about like emotional intelligence and growing in that?
Emotional intelligence is, for me, a process of understanding myself, as well as my family, and like what subtle cues are happening. And it's definitely, for me and for a lot of men, we've become successful. And I think back to when you were in 7th grade and playing football, and it's October and it starts raining and it's cold. And if you've ever been in where it's cold and wet, it gets really nasty. And what are you taught? You taught to access this part of yourself that pushes the emotions to the side and focuses on the task hand. And so for much of our lives as men, and it's an important skill, we've learned to develop this, like, don't worry about how you feel, worry about the action that's needed, and you take that action. And that's one part of our development. But there's also a deeper level. Okay, I am experiencing cold or pain, or I'm sad, or whatever it is, and having the space to feel into it and allow it to not be. One of my coaches named Brandon Epstein, he talks about what we resist persists.
Yep.
And so if we have sadness or we have anger, often for men it's anger around our kids, and we don't really address it with ourselves, or we don't have an outlet for it, it starts to build up until eventually, we can come unglued. If not in front of them, behind the scenes, something is going to, like, there's a valve that has to, a pressure valve that has to be released. So my journey with emotional intelligence is like a huge piece has been exercise and jujitsu. Like, I feel called anytime I'm in like a big crowd and a lot of people, and I don't know if anybody else has experienced this, but this is just, maybe it's just me. But if I'm at like a nice dance or something, it's like, man, I really would just rather be like fighting people. Like,
I love
like
that.
I would rather be in like a combat situation than what I'm in right now, where everybody's just trying to be nice and I don't even know if people are really being real. And so it's like, man, allowing ourselves as men to be men and access that part of ourselves, and like if it's getting underneath a squat bar or hitting it, like for my son, he loves Muay Thai, like just striking something, hitting something hard. And to me, that's been an important part of my emotional intelligence journey. I can tell you for my son specifically, like he's at his best when he also has the opportunity to like, go and train and like push himself physically. And so, yes, there's part of our emotional intelligence that's like understanding our feelings, but I also believe it's important to express our emotions physically as men.
Yep.
Whether it's through sex or exercise or building something, whatever it is. I think that's largely how we're wired.
I think because it wasn't modeled for many of us, naming it in and of itself can be difficult. And then also, like, one of the goals that I have as my son gets older is saying it in real time. Because even if you're moving the puzzle pieces internally, talking about and going, hey, like, this really frustrated me. This upset me. This made me sad. I'm giving and trying to deliver patience, but like it's taking an internal movement that's going to take a few minutes to get there, and trying to figure out how you would name it. That's like one of the lessons, right? And then you have to figure out how can I say it and actually, and then how do I move still, right? And not just be completely paralyzed by, okay, well, I feel all these things so deeply. And that might be a season, right? Like some men haven't felt a lot of that because they've been stuffing for so long that you do need to go hit something and figure out what the heck you're feeling. Like that's a pretty big assignment in and of itself that fatherhood can bring on. So I think that's huge. Definitely firmly believe in physical activity. I mean, for me, man, I didn't have any words for my depression in 2020. This was before my son was born, but running became the thing that was like, it helped move me in the direction of emotional intelligence. And so physical activity is huge. Okay.
Yes.
So at the very beginning, we teased out this reality that you woke up in one day. Your son's in 8th grade. He's like, you're a police officer. I have too much control. I'm out. I'm away for 6 months. We teased that. You've walked us through over the last 40 minutes or so some of how you had to get yourself to a place where it's like, I need to be a better leader. I need to lean in on some of this. I need to relinquish some control. Tell me just the personal story of what happens after that 6 months. What do you do to invigorate your relationship with your son? How does that play out? Kind of bring us to what that relationship looks like present day. Because I think you speaking that part of the story is going to bring hope to some people who are YouTube searching this and going, I feel completely lost with my kid right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So the scenario was this. I'm gonna give you a little bit more background. And Charles was born when I was 18. Never married to his mom. We broke up in high school when Charles was conceived. He was born just on the summer after I got out of high school. We had a 50-50 parenting plan when he was in 7th grade. And during that 50-50 time, is right at the end of COVID, she chose to move across the state. And this is pretty significant because if you've been in the court system with kids, if you have a 50-50 plan and one parent moves, effectively they are removing one parent from the child's life. Not completely, but like significant change. And so initially Charles stayed with us in Eugene for 9 months, and that's when he was living with my wife and I, because he's like, my friends are here, I don't want to move away, this is where I want to be. So finally, after 9 months, he's like, Dad, I'm tired of being controlled, I'm tired of being told what to do, I'm moving in with Mom across state. And that was like literally halfway through his 8th grade year. And so I was there. I felt like everything that I had built was and done, and the effort that I put into my son over the last 14 years was just slipping through my fingers. And he didn't want to talk to me, didn't want to have anything to do with me for a while. And that's the time when it was like, whoa, there's really no more changing Charles. The only one left that I could change was me. I was the only part of the equation. There was no like talking to his teachers or a counselor. None of that was going to change anything. The only one that I could control was myself. And so through getting a coach and getting close to the Lord and like really digging into this journey of fatherhood leadership, I was able to dig deeper into that journey of developing some of the things that we've talked about. That summer, like June, we started to have court negotiations. And what it came down to is like when Charles was with me, he was passing his classes and doing sports and working and all those things. When we moved to Central Oregon, due to a variety of reasons, he wasn't attending. His attendance was about 60%, like 65%, somewhere in there. Failing nearly all of his classes in 8th grade, suspensions, smoking weed, going in a very bad direction. So it's like, well, I can keep my teaching job, or I could leave my teaching job, move to Central Oregon. And the judge said, if you move to Central Oregon, you'll get 50% custody, 50% parenting time. And so we left our house. We left we had my daughter, I had a 6-month-old daughter at the time and a 2-year-old daughter at the time, maybe a 3-year-old when we moved. We moved to Central Oregon, left close. We had my parents close by in Eugene. So we left a lot in Eugene to go out because we knew if we didn't take action and move closer to Charles, there's a good chance that he would be a high school dropout and a drug addict by the time we got to high school, by the time we got to Christmas of that year. As we got there, the first month or so, it's like, maybe the first couple of weeks, we were just happy to have Charles over, that we had a chance to have influence on him and kind of, seek first to understand, then to be understood type situation. And so that was really my shift. It was like, I want to understand Charles. So I asked him, like, what is it that you're getting, like, you feel like you're getting from the weed? And he gave me some like BS answer about, oh, it helps me concentrate or focus or something. And it's like, okay, well, that's all great. And it's really important that you take care of your physical health and like you're getting exercise because I knew his personality from, being his dad for the first 14 years. Like I knew that he needed an outlet for exercise. And so he's like, well, what do you, I basically asked, like, what is it that you want to do? We got to get started with it. I don't think you need rehab. That's kind of how I address it. Like, I don't think you need rehab. Although, like, every day he'd come home, we'd be like, dude, take off your coat. You smell like weed. Like, don't be around the young
Yeah.
toddlers like that. Right. And so he chose Muay Thai. So we started training Muay Thai together. And I trained jujitsu. I still train jujitsu. Charles loves Muay Thai the most and wrestling. And that was a huge pivot point because he went from the first day being completely exhausted and tanked to getting better and better and realize like, oh man, like maybe I'm not going to smoke weed right before I go to Muay Thai. And that would like make me feel a little better. And he started to get the high from getting done with Muay Thai. He was like, I actually like this. Maybe I'll just like not smoke the whole day before I go to Muay Thai. And I'm like, well, maybe I'll just stop smoking completely because I like Muay Thai. I feel better when I'm doing that anyways. And so that's
What a
slowly what
common story
happened.
that is, man. Like finding the physical outlet to go back to what we were talking about with emotional intelligence, but it's so true in this too. Like if you want to
Yes.
overcome a bad habit, I mean it's a that's like the secret sauce. You can't just like overcome a bad habit. You got to replace it. And so the gradual replacement and like eventually getting that the equivalent of a fitness, a health, a running high, whatever you want to call that,
Yep.
becomes a big step. So that's cool. And it's cool that you guys develop that sort of together because it's not like you're having to sit there and just talk about all your father son baggage. You're doing an activity together that he's finding interest in.
Right. And we're sparring and we're fighting and like it's an opportunity to connect at a deeper spiritual physical level than and that's really how men communicate much better than sitting across. Let's go to a
Totally.
counseling session. And
Yep.
he's always saying, like, because his mom, he was in counseling, which is important too. But he's like, I don't feel like I get anything out of it. Like, I feel much better after I go to Muay Thai than I do one of those sessions. And so it was, yeah, it was a really powerful shift. And it got to the point where the summer before his sophomore year, it was like, hey, there's wrestling practice at the high school. You want to go? And he goes, and they show up. This was in the summer, and they're like, hey, well, we're going to camp like on Thursday. And I was like, well, Charles, this is like your first day. You're probably not wanting to go to camp. He's like, actually, yeah, I want to go. And so like 3 day, like a multi-day wrestling camp all day. He's going to do it. He ended up being a varsity letterman. And he went from being like the stoner kid at the beginning of his freshman year to being a varsity letterman in wrestling his sophomore.
Wow.
So like a huge transformation and shift. So I love telling that story because like Charles is the one that like took the wheel and his own shift and transformation. I was just there to like help guide him and put him in the right positions and give him the right relationships to help him develop that. Um, but I tell dads like no matter how low it feels, like you're always going to be dad. You always have an advantage within yourself, within your relationship that you can continue to grow and develop that. But it starts with believing in yourself and like being willing to step in the game.
Yeah. Man, the work of fatherhood, of raising kids, it's like it is so full of it's like every day is a new challenge, but it's also just it's bigger than even that. It's like you're becoming through fatherhood the kind of man that you are hoping to be. It's giving you the challenges to do that. It's like this development system, and you're getting to pour into this next generation that, man, like the work that you put in is going to be compounded in their life and like being in their corner. I love that as like a statement as we leave too. Just choosing to be
Yes.
in their corner and is huge. So, man, you mentioned your book.
Yeah.
Tell us really quickly. Somebody's listening to this. They're like, I got to get in contact with Thomas. What's the best way for people to do that before we wrap?
If you search Thomas Pfanner or Tom Pfanner, there are not a lot of me in the world, and so you'll find me. I'm confident that you'll be able to, if you're driven, you'll be able to make that happen. And then as far as the book, it's on Amazon. Dads Who Lead. Would highly recommend dads, especially if they have teenagers or soon to be teenagers, to put it in your library. And then the last gift that I have is a free leadership quiz. If you go to dadswholead.com, it's 100% a gift to you to help dads kind of get dialed in with their own understanding how they're wired as a leader, and be intentional. And there's a guide and some other freebies that we give away with that. And that also gets you dialed in with our other free resources for dads.
If you like this conversation and you like these sort of discussions on deeper patterns and what's shaping our lives, and in this one we're talking about fatherhood and what's shaping the next generation as well, would just challenge you to subscribe. That would be my one ask on this episode. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we'll have more conversations coming up exactly like this. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Cheers.